couple of months ago, when the rumblings of a potential matchup between Amanda Nunes and Raquel Pennington were happening, I came on here and talked about how some fans and media were suggesting that the UFC should promote the fact that we have two openly gay athletes competing for a title for the very first time. I basically just talked about how I disagreed with this idea because, as a fan, I don't concern myself with a fighter's sexual orientation and so on and so forth. I pondered about how Nunes and Pennington felt about the idea and if it's something that they would prefer or not. Because the promotion of this particular bantamweight affair was a topic of interest to me, I've really been anticipating the build-up for this fight, and I've been really curious about what the UFC had in mind. As it turns out, they had nothing in mind, as there's been essentially zero promotion for this fight whatsoever. It seems like the logical thing to do in this situation is to criticize the UFC for this, but the reality is, the promotion is no longer owned by true, die-hard fans of the sport like the Fertittas. It's owned by Hollywood, and not only that, it's a business. Its purpose is to generate profit, and there are a lot of variables and moving parts to how businesses do this. In order to be profitable, ad money is spent strategically. And for whatever the reasons may be, the UFC brass doesn't see UFC 224 as an event worth putting a lot of promo behind, and that's fine. It's the nature of the beast. But it's a total shame because there is a very intriguing storyline to this fight that is totally flying under the radar. It's not the fact that Saturday night is a historical fight because it's the first time two openly gay athletes will face each other in an MMA championship fight. It's because these two girls are really good friends. And not just acquaintances or people who know each other. They're friends that seemingly hang out all the time. It's not just that they're friends, but both Nunes and Pennington's partners and fellow UFC fighters, Nina Ansaroff and Tecia Torres, are also friends with each other. And in fact, Ansaroff and Torres will be cornering against each other when the time comes to support their respective partners. Anyone who follows this sport understands how much these athletes go through in preparation months leading up to these fights. And these two couples who are close and are always palling around with each other and hanging out at events and in private life are having to temporarily shelve that friendship and come this weekend, put that shit aside and step in there to get in a fist fight with each other in an attempt to take each other out. That shit's fascinating to me. In a really admirable move, Ansaroff and Torres actually did an interview together with MMAfighting.com when they were in Brazil for a press event for this fight. The gist of what they were both getting at is, this is a business, and in this game, they're all fighting for the same thing. They talk about how they are friends before and they're going to be friends after, but once Nunes and Pennington step in there and that octagon door finally closes, it's simply business, and that no matter what happens in there, in the end, they're all still going to be friends. The interview is very interesting. I recommend checking it out for sure. It's really cool of them to do that, but I've got to acknowledge, as much as I truly believe what they're saying, you can tell it's a little awkward between the two. This MMA cage fighting business is serious stuff with serious consequences, both physically and mentally. So you have to imagine how uncomfortable of a situation this is. And that's just between these two fighters' girlfriends. Can you imagine how it must feel for Nunes and Pennington? Knowing that they're stepping in there and they have to be in the frame of mind of wanting to do physical harm to their counterpart. Seeing friends in this sport, friends fight in this sport happens all the time. The MMA circle is small, and all these elite, talented fighters train together. Iron sharpens iron, as they say. So it's not uncommon for people who train together to meet at one time or another to have to fight each other. Some people, you can tell it really affects in a negative way, and they just don't see themselves when it comes to the fight, and others can hit that switch and not look back. We've seen friends fight each other in a lot in the past, and sometimes it's ended in a devastating knockout. The story of Andrei Arlovski and Travis Browne comes to mind. Those two were living together and had to fight on very short notice, for Christ's sake. That's one of the elements of why we love this crazy sport, isn't it? All the drama and the outside the cage business aside, Nunes versus Pennington is going to be an entertaining fight. I believe the odds are in Nunes' favor, as they should be. Pennington is coming off a very long layoff, and couple that with the fact that she's recently gotten a car accident. But Rocky's tough as all hell, and I think she's going to make this fight a lot more interesting than what most people will give her credit for. Battle of the Buddies goes down this Saturday. Don't miss it.